We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We going all in, like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.
What is up, everybody? I am Mr. Man. I'm chilling in my house coat. I want to let you guys know at 11 o'clock today, Central Savings Times, I officially retired. I left work, my desk was clean, everything was done, and that was it. There was no party today. Everything's closed still, I guess, in the area. My manager wasn't there today, and my ranking manager above me wasn't there as well. The head manager, the PRM, person responsible for maintenance, and then I have the QA/QC manager, which is the one who looks after me because I do QA and technical records. So I had left work today. I had come home, and the first thing I had done was got myself ready for a run. I needed that freedom. I needed to be able to just be in my head, in my zone, and experience a zen. And trust me, I was so excited to be out there. It helped me put a lot of this stuff into perspective. And because I allowed myself that time to compartmentalize my thoughts and shut the brain off, it allows me to put things and align them together to make them make sense, essentially. I give myself that church, if you will. I don't go to church. I find Zen. I find my autopilot. I give myself that chance to slow down. So what I'm going to do here is take you guys through stable coins. It's going to transition into narrow banking. We're going to end up in 2024, 2025, what that looks like. We are also looking at 2027 as well as escrow. The last of escrow supposedly being released along with the US CBDC and the UK CBDC or stablecoin, depending on what it is. The digital sterling, so probably the CBDC at that point. Because right now it's just the EUROC with USDC's stablecoin out in Europe. Okay, so we're going to start off here. This conference here is one put on for the BIS, by the BIS actually, for other banks and other high-ranking entities such as the ISSB, the International Standards Settings Body. You know what? Let me show you guys who they are. So here we are on the FSB's website, Financial Stability Board. These are the individuals, the companies, the heads, what's known as the Standard Settings Body in the compendium. So what these guys are, they're individual, say a banker, a central banker, someone from the IMF, someone from another company, and they come together and form this body, these bodies, these entities. So the ISS is comprised of, here we have BCBS, the Basel Committee there. We have the CGFS, the Committee on Global Finance System, Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure, CPMI, FATF with the travel rules, FSB. We have the International Association of Deposit Insurers, International Association of Insurance Supervisors, International Accounting Standards Board, International Auditing and Insurance Standards Boards, International Monetary Funds. There's standards for everything, all right? International Organization of Pension Supervision, International Organization of IOSCO, Islamic Financial Service Board. Oh, that brings me back to Sharia, all right? Which companies adhere to Sharia? That's all I gotta say, right? We already know. You already know. The Joint Forum Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and the World Bank. These are your market makers right there. They're the ones who create what's going on. They are the ones who come together and say, all right, let's collaborate. Let me put my thinking cap on. You got yours on? All right, let's figure this out now. You are the head of what you do in wherever it is you come from. You are the head of the World Bank. So you understand better. Come on, man. Let me hear what you got to say. You insurance? Yeah, we need you in here too because we're running this digital thing. We need the best of the best. Not even the top of the top. Not even. We need the 1% who do what they do and do it so well. We need the Bruce Lees of finance, if you will. We need that liquidity to come flooding. Right, my friends? Be like water. Just flow. Okay, so who do you think this gentleman here is talking to? He's not talking to you and me. He's not at this conference with people in the audience, the you and me's of the world. I just told you who the standard settings bodies are. They are there listening to what this man has to say right now. There's different speakers that come up and communicate what they have expertise in and what they're talking about. And then they relay that message to whom? Not for us. We just happen to scour through these things and dig for what the gold is and try to put the pieces together. They are talking to the other ones, building and creating this ecosystem and infrastructure as well. But from their niche, their specialty, and then they connect the pieces together to make one seamless flow. All right. So listen to what this gentleman has to say here about stable coins and narrow banking.
The business model of banking, whether that's a feature or a bug, depends on your perspective. The next issue is like in the taxonomy I showed you earlier. I kind of broke down the custodial stablecoins into the ones that hold a reserve in commercial bank money and the ones that hold a reserve in central bank money. The latter are sometimes referred to as synthetic CBDCs. And there was a...
So I needed to pull this up here for you guys while I got you with me here. The man's talking about synthetic CBDCs. Just so you know what he's talking about here. This came out 2021. This is from the Euro Blockchain Observatory and Forum. So they are a forum who's observing what's going on. Everything that's going on. Taking notes, taking data points, figuring things out. So here, Ukraine deploys Stellar-based CBDC. Ukraine, so this is now the plumbing. These are the rails, okay? Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation is collaborating with Stellar Creation Foundation to develop a virtual asset strategy in the region. According to a 4th of January 2021 statement, the Ministry of Digital Forum of Ukraine and the Stellar Growth Foundation signed a memorandum of understanding and cooperation to mutually establish a local ecosystem of digital properties. Alexander Bornyakov, Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation for IT Development, said, "What is important about this cooperation is contributing to the development for the infrastructure for a Ukrainian national digital currency. Most of the world's leading countries are developing their own national digital currencies. The National Bank of Ukraine has been researching the possibility of CBDC implementation since 2017. It demonstrates Ukraine's movements toward one of the major financial trends. Ukraine is trying to be a digital hub. At the ministry, we aspire to ensure our country's adaptation to technological innovations and correct competitiveness in the financial market in Eastern Europe." Okay, so now we'll take a deeper dive into that and then we'll segue back. I'm just gonna find this mouse here. I'm going back down there. So this is put out by Terranet. This is the Central Bank Digital Currencies Analysis and Review 2023. This I want to go over with you guys just quickly because it has what I'm looking for. So here, we're talking about Stellar and Ukraine here. That's what we were just talking about. So Tascom, one of the oldest banking institutions in Ukraine, has completed the pilot testing of a digital currency based on the Stellar network. The bank believes that its electronic money platform represents an economically viable implementation of blockchain technology. So what we're going to read about now is the implementation of a SCBDC, a synthetic CBDC. Tascom Bank conducts tests with new Ukrainian digital currencies. An electronic hryvnia has been tested by Ukraine's Tascom during the pilot phase of a project to create a currency with the Stellar network. During the trials, the coin was used in settlements between buyers and seller. It's that intermediary for the settlement. The financial institution announced in a report. Operations with the new digital asset were carried out in accordance with the current Know Your Customer (KYC) and anti-money laundering (AML) procedures. The bank pointed out in the document quoted by the crypto news outlet Forklog. Tascom also emphasized its research demonstrated a number of advantages of employing blockchain, including transparency at all stages of circulation and between all participants in the transactions, increased security and confidentiality for user data, low cost and high capacity. The e-money circulation scheme studied during the pilot is an economically viable business model for using blockchain technology. The authors of the report elaborated, stating that they consider the pilot project successful and promising in terms of further product development and implementation. The bank added that it plans to continue its studies on the issuance and circulation of blockchain-based electronic money. Interesting. One of the areas its future research is going to cover will be the possible use of such currency in retail non-cash payments. Tascom Bank also revealed that the National Bank of Ukraine believes the results of its pilots, which were launched at the end of 2021, coincidentally around the same time the war happened, who knew, can be used by experts at commercial and central banks to conduct further analysis. In January of 2021, the Ministry of Digital Transformation in Kiev chose the Stellar Development Foundation as a partner in the development of the country's virtual assets ecosystem, including infrastructure for NBU's central bank digital currencies. In November last year, the NBU presented a draft e-hryvnia concept to members of the crypto industry banks and other financial institutions. I promise you, we're going back. We will go back. I just need you guys to follow along with me. So, this came out December 18th. Ukraine's National Bank initiates process to join Euro SEPA payment system in 2024. Okay, December 18th, 2023, a few days ago, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. Ukraine's National Bank plans to kickstart Ukraine's accession to the single euro payments area in 2024. Chairman Andriy Fesny wrote on Facebook. This move comes on the heels of the European Council's decision on December 14th to commence negotiations on Ukraine's accession to the EU. In one of my older videos, I told you they're going to be joining them. They're going to be joining them, okay? The European Council made a historic decision on December 14th to start negotiation on Ukraine's accession to the EU. We currently have an unprecedented level and intensity of relations with the EU, which will only grow with the start of negotiations, said Pisny, that guy with the P. The NBU's goal is to ensure compliance with European norms and standards through the implementation of relevant EU legislation. So now that we know that the National Bank of Ukraine has now going to be joining SEPA in the EU, utilizing the SEPA system in 2024, what else do we know that's taking place in 2024? You know that we know. You know we know. I know you know that I know that you know. All right? The EBA, that's the European Bank Authority, consults on draft technical standards on the procedure for the approval of white papers of asset reference tokens, the ARTs, issued by credit institutions under the markets and crypto assets regulations. That's MiCA and MiCAR, or MiCAR, however you pronounce it. This came out October 20th, 2023. So you know how we do here, guys. We just put the pieces together here to show you what the game is. The background here on markets and crypto assets established a regime for the regulation and supervision of crypto assets issuance and crypto assets service provision in the European Union. It came into force, so MiCA came into force on June 29th, 2023, and the provision relating to ARTs, the asset reference tokens, will be applicable from June 30th, 2024. So there was that pilot that was being conducted 2021, 2022, 2023. The National Bank of Ukraine liked it so much, they connected with SEPA, and here we have the asset reference tokens going live. Okay, back to the video, now that we have that understanding.
There's a very interesting development in this space since last summer, where Circle put out this press release saying that they intend to become a full reserve national commercial bank operating under the supervision and risk management requirements of the Federal Reserve, et cetera, et cetera. We believe that full reserve banking built on digital currency technology can lead not just to a radically more efficient, but also a safer, more resilient financial system. Now, this is an interesting development because not everyone agrees with that. So the text here, I won't read it out, but the text here is not related to stable coins themselves, but related to something that I want to connect some dots here. So there was back in 2019, there was a proposed, the Fed proposed an amendment to Regulation D, where the story behind this is that there was a startup bank called the Narrow Bank, TNB. The founder of the Narrow Bank was an ex-Fed researcher, Jamie McAndrews. And the business model of TNB was really quite simple. It's like, all these kind of wholesale trading firms, corporates who want to hold their cash in something more safe than bank deposit can put it in the Narrow Bank. And what the Narrow Bank would do is hold it as reserves in their Fed master account. And they would just pass on most of the interest on excess reserve to the depositors. So very, very simple.
Okay, so here we are. Narrow banking. What is narrow banking? Narrow banking is a proposed banking system where financial institutions would be restricted to holding highly liquid and safe assets, such as government bonds, against depositors' money. The primary function of narrow banks would be to accept deposits and make payments, separating these activities from other forms of financial intermediation and risk-taking. This approach aims to create a set of low-risk banks that would serve as the payment system for the economy, minimizing the risk of bank failures and reducing the need for government safety nets. However, the concept of narrow banking has faced resistance and has not been widely implemented. In 2019, the Federal Reserve denied approval for narrow banks in the U.S., citing concerns about the potential impact of monetary policy and financial stability. The narrow bank proposals call for structural change in the banking industry, with the separation of narrow banks that hold 100% reserves at central banks from other financial institutions. So, next thing I want to know is, how can XRP assist in narrow banking? And I use perplexity for these things here. And the way I come to my conclusions and the things that I ask is because I learn about the regulations, how the regulations work, and then I watch videos on what these things are, because I don't understand the regulation until I understand what's actually going on and what the moving parts are. Because the regulation can state to do that, you don't do this, you can do that, and it's like, what the hell does that mean? I've never seen this before. So I need to take time, watch multiple videos, read several documents, then go for a run and let my mind put all those things together, because I don't got to think about anything anymore. I just silence my mind at that point, and then I can organize that swirl and jumble in my head. Like I said, this is like church to me. I can take this thought, put that in this box, this thought in that box, this thought in that box, compartmentalize the hell out of it. Stack these boxes up here in one corner. Now let me take this box down, open it up. What is this in here? This is you. What does this mean to me? How do I understand this? What's my interpretation? Okay, that's what I think it is. Let me close that up, move that aside. Let me take you out now. Okay, this sounds familiar. It's like this thing here, but it's different because you're coming at it from a different angle now. Okay, well that sort of makes sense. Let me find a video on this particular thing here now, because now I have somewhat of a concept, an idea from reading these things here and hearing them on a few occasions. And I go through it. And the more I read, the more I understand, the more I can put the puzzle pieces together here. One of the ISSBs there, the International Standard Setting Bodies, Ripple and Stellar, adhere to Sharia or are Sharia compliant as well as one of those standard setting body, which is an important thing, because if you're going to survive, you have to adhere to policy, you have to adhere to framework, you have to adhere to regulation, you have to adhere to law that's going to be put in place to govern everything again from the top down. So XRP can potentially assist in narrow banking by providing on-demand liquidity for cross-border transactions, thereby reducing the need for pre-funding in foreign accounts. Ripple, the company behind XRP, offers a service called on-demand liquidity, which uses XRP to provide liquidity in cross-border payments. This means that instead of holding funds in various foreign accounts, banks and financial institutions can use XRP as a bridge currency to facilitate efficient and rapid currency conversion. By leveraging XRP in this way, banks can minimize, notice they say the banks, can minimize the risks associated with holding multiple currency accounts and improve the efficiency of their cross-border payment process. Additionally, Ripple is confident that U.S. banks will want to use XRP for cross-border transactions, further indicating the potential for XRP to play a role in enhancing the efficiency and safety of banking activity.
Simple business model, and you can see how that could be popular. The Fed didn't like this idea. Said they refused to open an account for a Fed master account for TNB. TNB sued the Fed. Fed came back with this proposed amendment to Regulation D, basically saying you can't do that. And what was interesting about the proposal is this particular text, where they refer to one of the potential implications of basically allowing narrow banking in the banking system is it can be destabilizing to the fractional reserve banking system by being too popular, by draining liquidity, potentially in times of stress, draining liquidity away from fractional reserve banks into narrow banks.
Draining liquidity from fractional banking, which is what you and I have grown up in. That's all we've ever known. Draining the liquidity from the fractional reserve banking into the narrow banking at that point. They're sucking it from the future and throwing it into this new direction there, into cryptocurrencies, into digital infrastructure, into the plumbing, into XR, mother-sucking P, XLM, XDC, Algorand, Quant. Man, just spitting the game here, just giving the game here. I hope you guys appreciate this. Please like, please subscribe, please share this video. The only reason I get views are because you guys. Most people care less to listen to anything financial from a guy in a Spider-Man mask. And we all know I'm a grown-ass man wearing the Spider-Man mask too. But you ain't never heard anything like I'm giving you guys. I can guarantee that. Guarantee you that. I'm not no moon boy trying to give you price predictions. Do I believe it's going to go high? You better believe I do. That's why I'm invested in it. All the connections and breadcrumbs that I'm picking up and putting down, oh my gosh, this is going to be epic, like nothing either of us have ever experienced. Nothing like any of us have ever experienced. I call my running my Zen, my church, my quiet place, my autopilot. Oh my, we're going to reach such a J curve that people are not going to know what to do. They're going to plan and not know how to implement it. They're going to think that this is the one and only leg up, and they're going to FOMO. And keep in mind, in this journey, we still have a company or a private company, a private entity known as the Federal Reserve that continuously prints money. We also have Tether that continuously mints money, digital currency supposedly pegged to the US. They can make money whenever they want. It's like literally an air token. Tether does not adhere to prudential treatment of crypto assets. Tether is not part of the Group 1 or Group 2 crypto assets that have a stabilization mechanism. Supposedly does through bonds, treasuries, and in cash as a cash reserve. But they haven't cleared an audit to my knowledge yet. And they can mint and print as they want. And they're supposed to have 100% reserves, if not meet and exceed that. Right? Once Basel III kicks in, that's when Tether is going to explode, because that's when they have to have that transparent audit. And if Tether's not doing audits like it's doing, not like it's pushing back now and saying, no, we don't want to give an audit out there. We are Tether. Do you know who we are? Do you know who I am? Now it's not going to cut it. Once Basel III kicks in and you have to be transparent with your reserves and have proof of reserves, Tether will blow up at that point. And that won't be in 2024. That won't be in 2024. Asset reference tokens, e-money tokens, stablecoins are just coming out. And they're going to be yielding. They're going to have yield in them. Okay, let me just segue from this really quickly. This is how I know that stablecoins will offer yield, or stablecoin secured in custody will offer a yield. I posted this today. Lee Mizuhara, the CEO of Hashnote, this is on the Nasdaq's interview here. Stablecoins and yield-bearing stablecoins will have a huge year in 2024. Interesting. That's when the asset reference tokens are coming out through the National Bank of Ukraine, connected with SEPA. We'll see adoption in the use of these products through company initiatives such as PayPal, PYUSD, eBay, and Amazon. It'll be a natural progression. All right, once the people are hooked on that, get those drugs in you. Oh man. Once you get hooked on that, you are not leaving. You and me know how to use stablecoins already. Pair that now with the refugees or the asylum seekers of these war-torn places who are using USDC, and beginning to understand stablecoins who have been onboarded already. The ones in Israel now who are connected, they're rolling them out. And there's no age limit on this. Children can access these things too. So there will be things for children as well, whether that's an iPhone, a cell phone, an iPod, key fob type things for children to use, where the parent sets a specific denomination and the kid can only tappity tap tap, or a key fob push a button like IDEMIA and D&G have. Trust me, this is financial inclusion by any means necessary. They're going to get these people in. The more people they have, there's 8 billion people in this world. The more people they have on this system, the more money that can be created. Listen to this guy, what he has to say.
So that kind of brings me to my third kind of vector of growth for 2024. I think stablecoins and yield-bearing stablecoins are going to have a huge year. We're going to start getting real adoption of the usage of these products. We see PayPal coming online with their PayPal USD, right? Where do we think that's going to go? That's going to go into the PayPal app. It's going to go into eBay. It's going to go into Amazon. And it's a very natural way of doing payments, right? But once you've got people on this stablecoin, I want to say entry-level drug, right? At that point, you start using this everywhere. You start to make this easy to use, within the permission space, within the unpermissioned space, in general, around these new ways where people want to go and invest their monies in ways that they weren't able to do before.
Right.
So I think we're going to see all three of these being very, very large growth vectors in 2024, really buoyed or supported by the stablecoin adoption in 2024.
And Jason, finally,
so that kind of brings me to my
Perfect. So jumping back to this now, you can see the dots being put together, right, for this build up in 2024. Whew, help me, Lord, I just want to jump back to Tether quickly here. This Tether's not going to implode in 2024. The US is going to be printing. Tether is going to be minting. Sounds like a rap. So this right here, Tether is one of those widely used stablecoins globally, but do not be fooled by popularity. In accordance to prudential treatment of crypto asset exposure set up by the BIS, in SCO 60.10 1 and 2 states that for a crypto asset to be considered a stablecoin, it must be able to convert back to its traditional form, physical cash. According to Tether's website, they hold the right to delay the redemption. Tether reserves this right. This is not a right conferred by law. Tether tells you what they are going to do and what the type of control they have for their crypto asset, right? Law doesn't. Tether does. Tether holders do not have legal right to redemption. Tether holds the right. Tether will explode, and you've been warned. I'm here talking about it. It's going to be a longer video, but trust me, if you make it through that and you get to this part, you will be one of the lucky few. Because everybody else wants their 6-second video fix. I'm not about that. I'm about giving you guys real, solid, wholesome information. Something that'll help you put the pieces together. Not just blah, 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 take it and go and try to make sense of it with your ADHD mind. We're not about that. I live with ADHD, but I like the puzzle pieces together. I want to see that picture, and I'm sure you do too. So we are at the 30-minute marker right now, and if you're still here with me, bless your heart, you will be one of the few that know what's going on. So it says here, crypto assets do not meet the condition set out in SEO 60.9-2 above if they need to be redeemed or converted into traditional assets before they receive the same legal right as direct ownership of traditional assets, or through their specific construction they involve additional counterparty credit risk relative to traditional assets. Tether tells you when and how you can redeem your Tether into a traditional asset. $1, you just take your dollar and go to the bank and convert it into whatever the hell you want. A Tether has the right to hold that. So this is Tether's site here. Updated December 7th. Tether reserves the right to delay the redemption of withdrawal of Tether tokens if such delay is necessitated by the liquidity. If they don't have the liquidity, they're not redeeming that. Tether can be like, nah, hold up, B, we're not going that route, all right? Or unavailability or loss of any reserves held by Tether to back the Tether tokens. Kind of, what is that? And Tether reserves the right to redeem Tether tokens by in-kind redemption of securities and other assets held in the reserve. So, okay, I want to know some more. So I do what I did, and I went to my favorite thing, Perplexity. So Tether USD holders do not have a legal right of redemption to convert their USDT to fiat currency through legal means, such as claiming it in court. So if you get screwed over by Tether, you automatically lost. You already lost just because you're using that coin. From the minute you accept it, you've lost that case because they tell you in their legal, agreements, legal terms and conditions. We tell you how this coin operates. If you go to court, you lose, we win. The end. Ha ha ha. All right? Tether reserves the right to delay the redemption or withdrawal of Tether tokens, while Tether claims that the USDT, Tether claims that USDT can be redeemed at any time on tether.to for $1. Any time. But meanwhile, they have the right to redemption and to hold that and restrict that from you. Very, very interesting. I like. Okay.
And which I call this the deposit alternative problem. I understand that from a conversation earlier today that in central banking research, this is referred to as the problem of digital runs. And I think it is a very real problem. Or an opportunity, again, depending upon your perspective of whether you think narrow banking as an unintended implication of popularity of stablecoins, custodial stablecoins. Depending on your perspective, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not, but the potential of it being an implication all the same probably needs to be kind of front and center the discussion, in my opinion, the discussion about custodial stablecoins. And I'll just conclude with that summary with this quote from Andy Haldane, former chief economist at the Bank of England, to show that not everyone's from this central banking world is unhappy with the prospect of narrow banking like implications to stablecoin, narrow bank stablecoin business models, that is interesting for a number of reasons, not least of which it seems to be a habit of central bankers who retire from the Bank of England to publicly espouse the potential benefits of narrow banking. But I think it is important to connect the dots between that potential implication, which is probably the most significant potential implications of custodial stablecoins to the stablecoin topic.
So here we find ourselves again, asking this question, for me asking the question at least, XRP rising tide lifts all ships. Does a tide lift all ships? We heard about the on-demand liquidity there. Should money be taken from the fractional banking and brought into narrow banking? We're talking about liquidity moving now in this narrow banking infrastructure. The phrase, "a rising tide lifts all boats," is often used to express the idea that improvements in a certain area benefit all participants. In the context of XRP, it is used to convey the potential for positive developments such as regulatory clarity, which it has, and market optimism, which we are showing it, to benefit XRP and the broader cryptocurrency market. For example, a recent article on Crypto Globe discusses how regulatory clarity and market optimism could push XRP towards the $1 mark within the next 12 to 18 months, likening this potential rise to a rising tide lifting all boats. This metaphor is employed to illustrate how positive developments can have a collective positive impact on XRP and other digital assets. While the search did not yield specific videos on this topic, I wanted specific videos. That's what I was looking for. The concept of a rising tide lifting all ships is frequently used to discuss the interconnectedness of market developments and their potential impact on specific assets, such as XRP, is frequently used. Dangerous. That girl is so dangerous. So we were talking about the timeline of the stablecoin there from 2023. With National Bank of Ukraine stating they want to use the SCBDC, synthetic CBDC makeup there. And in 2024, they want to deploy it. We know that NBU is going to be connecting with SEPA. And in 2024, ASA reference tokens go live. So here we have the connecting video to this now in terms of the timeline. This is Onera and Matthew McDermott, who is the global head of digital assets at Goldman Sachs. 2023 was the year of proof of concept. Let's put this together and see if this works. Let's see if this concept works. Now that we know that this concept works, what happens? 2024 is going to production. So it'll be like this. We'll get that uptrend, right? We'll get that uptrend. But it won't be that. It's the beginning of the J curve. It's not that hockey stick yet. It's the beginning of the hockey stick going up. Businesses are starting to connect to these things now. You have Fed now there. You have banks still connecting, getting their licenses and connecting to it. Fed now is the hub, the liquidity provider for all these different companies around here. Or not liquidity provider, but money movement provider. It's the big cog for all these other connecting banks in the US that need to utilize that plumbing. Okay, so 2025, we have Basel III beginning to be implemented, and I believe 2026, something happens, something catastrophic happens, leading into 2027, when let me show you. The United States is also considering the development of a digital dollar or a central bank digital currency, but there is no definitive timeline for its release. As for the digital euro, the earliest possible issuance is projected to be 2027, according to Jürgen. There we go. So we know that there's potentially coming out in 2027, 2026. The US comes out with their new new dollar at that point. 2025, the Fed is letting go of coexistence for specific codes or particular codes, which is in SWIFT, and that's allowing new rich data codes. Digital Euro project for our European counterparts who are also keen to use the digital euro to buy a cup of coffee or pay your taxes. There is also a similarly bullish timeline in place. At the BAF European Bank-to-Bank Forum in London, Jürgen, there it is, advisor to the European Central Bank, said the date for the possible issuance of a digital euro was 2027. Interesting enough, for some objects in the ledger, most of Ripple XRP's holding are locked in escrow until 2027, with a portion being released each month. 2027 is when the escrow is going to come flooding out. 2027 is when that flood comes rising in. What has to happen in our world? What kind of hurt does our globe need to be in for this to come into fruition, for that escrow to be released? Right? It isn't a monthly release from Ripple. It is that on-demand liquidity we were talking about from the beginning. That's when that escrow, that it was 50 billion, is it 50 billion or 80 billion, whatever the heck it is, I don't even remember. Whatever that number is, comes out of that escrow. You better believe you'll find that coming to Jesus moment. Oh, that's when we get that serious curve. I think 23 or 24, 25 is like this. I think 26 comes back down. 27 goes even deeper. Because we know that this CBDC in the UK needs to come out. Something big has to happen. Could that be Tether that we were talking about before, that doesn't adhere to prudential treatment of crypto assets? Doesn't meet the framework of Group 1A or Group 1B crypto assets? Could it be that? More information is coming out about Bitcoin, where they're suggesting that even more Bitcoin could exist. There could be more than 21 million that's minted at that point, or that against what the Bitcoin paper states. Could that be? We'll find out. But we're ahead of the crowd here because we got this information and most don't. It is now 43 minutes. It might shift down because I'm going to be editing this video. So about 43 minutes as I'm recording right now. That some people will not get this information because they just don't have the attention span for it. But for you that do, you are going to be well prepared. Know the game and you can't get played. If you're looking for everything in 10, 15 seconds, 2 to 5 minutes, this isn't the channel. I give you the timelines, I give you what's going on, and I help you understand, and I take the difficult and make it easy to understand, all right? So here we are at this post I had done yesterday, or was it today? One of them, either way. If you notice, I show you guys my stuff, the stuff that I put out there. Other people post some great content as well, but I'm helping you put the pieces together based off what I get and I'm learning about. And if I see somebody else who has something that correlates with my specialty or what I'm going down that direction, I will definitely post it here for you guys. What gives crypto their value? Currency has value relative to something. Do you believe in a world where there's complete loss of faith in local governments or banks, where you want to use some other currency like Bitcoin? Bitcoin, there are 8 billion people in this world. 8 billion people. Of those 8 billion people, only 2.74% have heard of Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin. 2.74%. That means that 97.26, maybe? 26%, 97 have not heard of Bitcoin, not heard of crypto, or have heard of it and could care less, have heard of crypto and say, I'm not touching that crap at all. Trust me. Try to talk to people about this stuff and you will be the one that's a conspiracy theorist. You'll be the one that's looked upon as strange. They don't have the day or the time to give you to understand and even care to hear what's going on. Let's do this. As my man Brad Kimes would say, roll that beautiful video.
I feel a good first question is, what gives cryptocurrencies their value in the first place? And I'll hit that over to Jeff.
Sure. I mean, first, I think you always have to take a step back first and define what we mean when we say cryptocurrencies. I don't even use that term. For those who know me, I always call them digital assets. And within digital assets, cryptocurrencies is one subset of the digital asset industry. Because a currency is obviously valued very differently than an equity-like instrument, which would be very different than some sort of loyalty reward card or some sort of a member reward type token. We've actually created a taxonomy for digital assets for that reason, to kind of help educate there. So when I think about how to value it, I like to break it down, at least at a high level, into 3 types of digital assets, right? A currency, in my opinion, can really only be valued relatively versus something else. Bitcoin has value relative to the dollar or relative to the euro or relative to the yen. It doesn't really have absolute value. And there's a host of other, currencies trying to do similar things to Bitcoin. When I look at how to value something like that, I look at it more like an option. If you think Bitcoin specifically, do you believe in a world where there's a complete loss of faith in local governments or banks to the point where you want to use some other type of denomination than your local currency? In which case, you almost using a Black-Scholes model, you could value what a future currency would be worth based on probability of that outcome. When I look at something that is more equity-like, and there are a lot of tokens that are like pass-through tokens, right, where they do pass through some form of revenue.
I'm sorry, I have no idea what 0.000052967 sats is worth in monetary language. And nobody beyond the you and me of the world that understand cryptocurrencies, and I don't understand Bitcoin. I don't know what that number means. Like, the world isn't switching currencies to go from the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, the Swedish dollar, Cambodian dollar, the mark, German mark, and whatever else there is. They're not switching to say we're going to teach everybody now about sats and Bitcoin. All right, guys, as the bankers, this is what it is. Who's teaching people about Bitcoin? Who is out there putting the work in, putting the education in and the time in to teach people about Bitcoin? 2.74% of the world. 2.74% of the world know about Bitcoin. They got a lot of reach to get out there for other people to hear about Bitcoin. And talking about this stuff now, let me tell you, I get more rejections than I do of people who care to listen and hear what I have to say. The minute you start talking about cryptocurrency and banking, you're already a conspiracy theorist, and they don't care. And who cares to talk about banks anyways? Nobody. That's not the topic of conversation usually. Isn't it normally how'd that baseball game go? Who's playing in the Raptors today? What's that football game like? Whatever the case, right? Nobody cares. Hey, how was that show you saw last night? Oh, let me tell you what happened. I was watching, I don't even know what's out there anymore. I haven't watched TV in so long. I watch the movies that provide the predictive program so I can see what's going on. Those to me are like documentaries, roadmaps, if you will, and I write stuff down. I am that guy. Leave the World Behind. Great movie, you guys. Give it a watch. I recommend it. Not because it's a great movie, but it'll definitely give you insights into what the terrain is that we will be going into soon.
News or profits. We value those the same way we value equities. We will use a DCF analysis. We'll use comparable comps. We'll look at dividend yields. There's a lot. MakerDAO is a good example just because it's topical right now. I mean, Maker's doing a couple $100 million of profits now simply because they're investing their treasury in short duration government bonds and earning 5% on billions of dollars of assets. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward calculation in terms of what the token is worth just based on the treasury and the income that they're earning from that. And then you have the probably the hardest one, which is your true utility tokens or member-like tokens, right? Where you're receiving some sort of non-financial reward for owning something, right? Similar to airline miles or similar to Starbucks points and things like that. And that's a little harder, right? That's where you kind of have to get into the supply and demand, right? How useful is this service that I'm getting, and how much of the token do I need in order to be able to utilize that? Almost a simple way to think about it is what is Amazon equity worth versus Amazon Prime, right? Amazon equity gives you the upside of the cash flows and the revenues of the business. You can value that pretty straightforward using cash flow analysis. But Amazon Prime is worth a ton as well, right? It gives you access to free movies and free music and discounts and shipping and all kinds of other perks, right? That membership is valuable. And the only way to think about that is, what would that be worth to someone else? How many Prime memberships are in existence? Is it infinite, in which case it probably holds less value, or is there a fixed amount, in which case, maybe being the first one to own that membership actually matters. So there's a lot of uniqueness with these digital assets, and you really do have to, read the white papers and figure out how these tokens accrue value and which value accrual mechanism makes the most sense.
There is a saying in crypto that the big players, the whales, they don't look at the chart, but they make the charts.
So just jumping back to my claim there about the 21 million Bitcoin there, rather than there won't be 21 million. there'll be more at that point, or something along those lines. If that's the fact, Jamie Dimon could have been right when he said that. For all we know, after the 21 million, something else jumps out and says, "Boo, there's more." Right? A conversation with Signum Bank, the global digital asset banking corp, has 1,000+ clients and 2 billion assets under management. This is their conversation. Bitcoin will not be the big performer as it once was. We don't think in the end there will be 21 million Bitcoin. We think there'll be more. Listen to this conversation.
Still an effect. And then, I mean, in the long term, it could even get negative, the halving, because in the end, it's the revenue for the Bitcoin miners. And if the revenues are cut in half, that's usually not so good for someone. And it was intended originally that the transaction fees of the Bitcoin protocol will compensate for that. But because Bitcoin is evolving into a store of value, only few transactions are made, and therefore the collected transaction fees on the Bitcoin protocol are low. And so we don't think that in the end we will have 21 million Bitcoins, but we think it will be more. And probably that is not a catastrophe, maybe only when it is published the first time, but I think it will not be after this halving here. And last but not least, it will not be after this halving here. And probably that is not a catastrophe, maybe only when it is published the first time, but I think it will not be after this halving here. And last but not least, energy consumption, in our view, this is a problem for Bitcoin. It already uses twice the amount of whole Switzerland annually. And if you expect, for example, a tenfolder in the next bull run, then the energy consumption, we estimate, would be around the whole of Western Europe. And there will be a time when there will be a lot of pressure from the regulators or the authorities, but also from a reputational point of view, we think usually these are the young ones that use the Bitcoins. And we know that the young ones get greener and greener because they care about their future. So we think Bitcoin will not be the star performer from now on, and we like smaller tokens or altcoins.
They prefer altcoins. They say Bitcoin will not be the star performer after this happening and bull run, right? And once it comes out after this happening and bull run, they said, and it shouldn't be a catastrophe, they say. Once they find out now, when it's printed in the news that there's more than 21 million Bitcoin, why would he say that? Why? Why would he suggest that? Does he know something we don't know? He sounded pretty confident and shaky in a wavy voice there to me. And if you notice how low his voice was getting, trying to say something without saying something, I got you, man. We know what's going on with Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin is not sovereign currency. People want sovereign currency. They want their USD. They want their Swedish, whatever it is. They want their dollars. That's what they know. That is what they know. Did we ever get to this video here? I don't think we did this one here. Theo Nera and Matthew McDermott, Global Head. I don't think we did. So I'm going to play it. If we did, too bad. We're going to watch it again. But I don't think I played this. Here we go.
I think that, at least from the way that I look at it, if I look at the timeline, for me, the year 24 is the year where 23 was a lot of POCs, right? Done, been there, done that. 24 needs to be about going to production live in an interoperable manner, where we have multiple financial institutions trading between them, assets and projects which are commercially viable and scalable and replicatable. And then 25 should be the year where we're doing the exponential growth. I mean, that's my
Yeah, no, I think that seems reasonable to me. I mean, I do think, not wanting to name drop, but I think someone like Larry Fink, I think, has had a profound impact. Not only on the buy side, because people are like, well, what are BlackRock doing? Because they do have a multifaceted strategy, but then also on the sell side, because they provide so much in terms of dollars to the market. So I think, that's been good. So I think mobilizing, kind of, I guess, more market participants, the demand, I guess, is hugely important. So I think next year, even if it's a small number of projects, but you have the market coalesce around them, create the liquidity, and actually show that there is value there, I think, to me, that will happen, and that's going to be key. And then I agree. And then it becomes kind of, people don't need to talk about tokenization, underlying technology. And we held a conference in New York a couple of weeks ago, and Christy Moy, I'm sure many of you know, she was just spot on. Like, if you're a trader, you don't want to be talking about tokenized assets. You don't want to be talking about what software you're using. It's really just kind of what benefits do you extract. And, if I'm trading whatever market is and the capital I use is less, the liquidity costs are cheaper because we're just more efficient, that's a positive. You don't need to know any more than that.
And that's definitely not Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't move cheap capital. It does not. But I want to show you guys this here. This is what I was watching. This here is an 8.5 hour video, I believe it is. Right. Not that one. This one here. 8 hours and 25 minutes. I don't think you can see that. There you go. 8 hours, 25 minutes. And this snippet is gem. Nothing but gold here. Let me show you guys this.
Yeah, I was thinking of contributing to an arbitrage bot, and then when I read some line of the code, it actually just sent my money to an unknown address. It's pure scam. I mean, and I wasted half of my day, investigating the code. Of course, I'm not a very skillful coder myself.
How many of you out there are skilled coders? I certainly am not. Right? You heard somebody else say, as long as you read the white paper, you should be fine. Not the truth. Anybody can say what they want in the white paper, and it could sound beautiful and shiny. Doesn't make it true. Does not make it true. So what I said here, pure DeFi will not be the thing in our future or anyone's. When I say pure DeFi, I mean outside of regulatory framework. It's not going to be the Wild West at all. Offline in our real world and online in the metaverse. Presently, we utilize DeFi, and many people experience hacks, money laundering, corruption, and many other negative effects. There are 2.74% of the 8 billion people in the world that hold Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, and potentially play within DeFi realms. Meaning, there are 97.26% of the population who will never experience it and want to get scammed, or care to learn about it. That being said, DeFi will also be regulated for those that do want to play within it. Which crypto company players offer TradFi and DeFi and adhere to global regulatory framework set out by the BIS, World Economic Forum, IMF, IOSCO, OECD, the BCBS. We had gone over these companies here, the International Standard Settings Body. If you think simply being a cog in the FedNow system or in the SWIFT system is big, you're thinking small. That's one system, right? In the grand scale of things. Being able to tap into the liquidity that goes through the global systems and provide liquid currency as needed. That's the sandbox I want to play in. I want to play with those big boys. I don't care if you're an FI connected to the Fed now. You're one system connected to it. Good for you. Thumbs up. Let's get back.
Manner, but then
The population, I guess, for average users, for the code, of course, I'm not a very skillful coder myself. But just speaking of, for average users, for financial inclusion purposes, when we talk about, for the majority of the population, I guess, regulation or centralization and decentralization, they are not necessarily mutually exclusive.
And I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
So, and just one word on this CDFI integration. I think this is an interesting topic, but I also think that by design, the goal should be to build the DeFi underlay.
To give you the heads up, these individuals here are the heads of their companies. They are Some of them, it all depends who they are. But they are speaking to the Bank of International Settlements. They are talking to the OECD. They are talking to IOSCO. They're talking to central bankers. They're talking to other VCs. They're talking to the non-you and me of the world, right? They're talking to the people who are going to be implementing or utilizing these things and implementing them. So these are the people that you want to listen to.
Playing primitives in a way that they can be used, they can at least be used by those people who really need it and want it in a decentralized manner. But then, to make it accessible to a broader public, it does make a lot of sense to allow those bridges to the external world, to the non-technical people, by allowing some sort of interface by traditional players, by banks or like regulated entities that allow you to convert like whatever you take out in tokens to fiat or convert them back. So you can still kind of benefit from the efficiency gains and from some of the benefits offered by DeFi, while still also kind of enjoying the extra security or the extra, at least, confidence that you may put in your bank or your service provider. So I think there is kind of a fruitful collaboration or possible between CeFi and DeFi. But the base layer, I do think that this should be based on a decentralized layer. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. Otherwise, why would you do it in the first place?
I mean, centralized is always more efficient than decentralized, and nobody's arguing here. The problem is that people don't trust centralized anymore. That's the main problem I see. The main problem for decentralized or DeFi, I would say, we didn't really talk about this yet, is this interface to the real world, right? Something like oracles, price oracles, and stable coins. I quoted Thomas Jordan before negatively, so let me say something positively as well. So he said it exactly correctly, right? So if we're going to see a bank run, I would fully agree that this comes from a stablecoin meltdown, and then people wouldn't trust the system anymore. So I think this is something we have to understand. So either we can go and say, the future is anyway decentralized, and there's no centralized players anymore, and no SMB and BIS and whatnot, right? That could happen. We don't.
Did you hear the woman there, the host, start to laugh? Why? Why do you think she's laughing? When someone says something funny, it's like, yeah, right. Like that'll ever happen. That's why she's laughing. That's what she's thinking. Like that'll happen. Get out of here with that garbage. She knows. They know. Right? It's not going to be decentralized and completely decentralized without any regulations for people to be in the metaverse, and it just be complete, utter chaos. Chaos. Not happening.
No. But if not, we have to have the interface somehow. And there, maybe something like CBDCs in the DeFi world would be fine, or as you say, a centralized, decentralized system would also be fine.
So I'm about to come off of this here. I'm going to read this last thing here for you guys. The argument is, the gentleman said they want something centralized and decentralized as well, or something decentralized with centralization in it. So the debate over whether XRP and Ripple offer centralization or decentralization is ongoing. It's not one or the other. It is both. It is hybrid. Some critics argue that Ripple's XRP is highly centralized and does not meet the required decentralization standards, citing the company's control over the entire network and the use of unique node lists or UNLs published by centralized parties. On the other hand, Ripple has been portrayed as not caring about whether XRP is sufficiently decentralized, and it has been suggested that the XRP network has decentralized over time, allowing anyone to build using XRP or use the network to transfer assets. Ripple doesn't even know how many companies have built on there. Neither does Stellar. They just build on there and they're like, oh, I heard about this. Additionally, while Ripple, the company, is centralized, it is claimed that the digital asset XRP is decentralized. However, it's important to note that the XRP ledger, XRPL, is still facing centralization caveats, particularly in terms of the raw number of validators that operate its network. The role of XRP in the Ripple ecosystem is to provide liquidity when necessary. We'd gone over that earlier in this video here, acting as a bridge between two currencies, but is not required for all transactions on the Ripple network, because the big players might not just want to move currency. They might want to move something else. It's not required. but it's definitely the preferred choice on the XRPL, which Ripple is being on, which it's a banking network and the banks are going to be utilizing. The debate surrounding the centralization and decentralization of XRP and Ripple, because XRP was given to Ripple, is complex and continues to be a topic of discussion within the cryptocurrency community. That is going to come to a close for me today. I hope you guys found value in this one. See ya on the next one.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.